Welcome to the final installment of this mini-series on U2 and theology. Today, Dr. Gombis and myself have a conversation about community and what it means to coexist and be amongst one another. I was thinking about this in regards to trees, how their root systems communicate and nourish one another. They live, survive, and thrive in community. The Bible Project did a really great series on all the different ways in which trees are used throughout the Bible. It's fascinating. I'll try to link it in the show notes. But this here is from a German author, and I believe I'm pronouncing this correct, Peter Boyleben, and his book, The Hidden Life of Trees. These are a few excerpts. When trees grow together, nutrients and water can be optimally divided among them, all so that each tree can grow into the best tree it can be. If you help individual trees by getting rid of their supposed competition, the remaining trees are bereft. This is because a tree can be only as strong as the forest that surrounds it. He goes on. But isn't this how evolution works, you ask? The survival of the fittest? Their well-being depends on their community, and when the supposedly feeble trees disappear, the others lose as well. When that happens, the forest is no longer a single closed unit. Hot sun and swirling winds can now penetrate the forest floor and disrupt the moist, cool climate. Even strong trees get sick a lot over the course of their lives. When this happens, they depend on their weaker neighbors for support. If they are no longer there, then all it takes is what would once have been a harmless insect attack to seal the fate of even giants. He continues, but the most astonishing thing about trees is how social they are. The trees in a forest care for each other, sometimes even going so far as to nourish the stump of a felled tree for centuries after it was cut down by feeding it sugars and other nutrients, and so keeping it alive. The reason trees share food and communicate is that they need each other. It takes a forest to create a microclimate suitable for tree growth and sustenance. Every tree, therefore, is valuable to the community and worth keeping around for as long as possible. And that is why even sick individuals are supported and nourished until they recover. This is because a tree can only be as strong as the forest that surrounds it. I really like that. Today we park for a while in the song One, perhaps the most famous song by U2, definitely one that most people know. And the lyrics at the end of that song go as such. One love, one blood, one life, you got to do what you should. One life with each other, sisters, brothers. One life, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other. One. All right, so here we are, episode 3, the finale, the climax, the dramatic conclusion to this mini-series on U2 and theology, or I don't know. I don't even know if there's a technical actual theme to what we're doing other than just
U2 and
appreciative.
life.
Yeah.
U2 and everything under the sun.
U2 and everything, U2 and all of us staring at the sun. And what does it mean?
Everything that we can think of, which is why these are only, there's only 3 of these.
Well, I think we were joking around like there's certain pieces of this puzzle that you and I could probably talk about for hours.
Oh, yeah.
So we're giving you, in some ways, even if it may seem wandering, a pretty condensed version of how this conversation plays out over beers or coffee. So since we recorded last, we had spent some time talking about grief and hope and grace, and so I thought it was listening back to edit it, I thought it was a really good conversation. I think I said in the intro that you and I were buzzing cousins afterwards, kind of like,
Oh, it was so fun.
Really thinking about a lot of that stuff, the stuff with Wake Up Dead Man, and
oh yeah,
reflecting on Jesus being on the cross still, when that was still processing through some of those ideas. But one of the things that stuck with me from the conversation last time, or what I've been kind of rolling around through, is community. And we are in, obviously you and I have talked about how this is not the most divisive time in history. You've commented, rightly so, that our country once went to war with itself and a lot of people died. So this is not
seriously
the most divisive time period, but it's perhaps the most divisive time period that we've noticed in our lifetime, or at least in recent history.
Yeah, it's all out in the open.
We are a very exposed raw tooth at the moment, and the nerves are frayed, and people are. And I was thinking about that because we talk about it a lot on the podcast. We talk a lot about division and the church, where the church is at, and how polarized everything is politically, and even within our own tribe, so to speak. And not only that, but the pandemic is drawing hard lines with people, and there have been some things that have happened in families that I've seen that I don't know that family members will recover from. There's some deep wounds that have happened, harsh things that have been said, and worse, some things health-wise that have affected people. And there are these ideas that maybe there are divisions that we will not come back from. And we start to kind of pull ourselves into this tribal mindset of just kind of being with like-minded people. As we're recording this, yesterday was the recall vote in California, and it has been really fascinating to watch how that has played down the lines in neighborhoods here, with people who think that the governor is the worst thing that's ever happened to civilization. It's just, it's wild. And so everything is like heightened and banana pancakes at this point. But we hinted at, or we touched on the song One last episode. We talked a little bit about how Bono was asked about, like, can you speak to this idea of being one and the importance of us being one? And he said, yeah, that's a great idea, but it's perhaps more effective to respect each other because of our differences. And I'm paraphrasing a quote that I read 20 years ago, so this is a real loose game of telephone, but there's something to the idea of that it's more fruitful or more important to, like, be into each other because of what makes us different, rather than trying to all be exactly the same. And I know that song, you immediately were like, we get to carry each other. That's how that song plays out lyrically. So I thought maybe we could start there and kind of talk about how in the world do we, and I don't know, again, we don't script this out, so we're just spitballing. So I'm throwing stuff on the table and we'll see if we can make a meal out of it. But how do we coexist going forward in this time period? And then not just globally, but in our immediate communities, it has become difficult to kind of be in that place. So maybe we can start with one and see what we get out of this.
Yeah, totally. It's as you're talking, I'm just running through lyrics, and also running through. I mean, you had mentioned 1 Corinthians. It's in 1 Corinthians and also in Romans, Paul uses that body metaphor. He uses it elsewhere as well, but especially in those two letters, he uses the body metaphor and the members of the body, like the body parts that make up the body, and the essential unity that we are unified in an essential way. That is, it is essential to our being Christian that we are knit together, that we are united together. And I mean, Christians, being redeemed humans, have a great opportunity to reckon with our true humanity. So reckoning with the reality that we have solidarity with our fellow humans, and it's not that's not optional. It's part of being human to reckon with each other, to recognize each other. And I'm just thinking about you brought up the song Invisible.
Yes.
That's part of that. I mean, the about seeing each other, and it's written from the perspective, it's sung from the perspective of someone who wants to be seen. And then there's that refrain, there is no them, there's only us.
Yeah.
And it's that statement of the reality that our being together and our embrace of one another, like all humans, is part of our humanity. There's no them to blame, and not merely to say like this is your fault, but especially in heightened times like we're experiencing now, the thought is everything that is messed up with the world is on you all, and you
Yes.
have to take the fall. Like you need to
Yeah.
go, or you need to be eliminated or something like that. And anytime we let passions and impulses, I mean, going back to, I mean, just if we think about the last few decades, but just going back to 9/11 and how many of us were um, fired up to regard Muslims and Arabs. It's like they are the ones,
Right.
they have to go or something must be done to them. Moments like that, it's understandable. We can explain, it's understandable that there are cultural dynamics that produce dynamics like that. But what we have to recognize is our humanity is being taken from us if we become the kinds of people that other some other group. So if we see the trouble that's being stirred up as, this is on you, you have to be punished. This is on you, you have to go. So I mean, just think about any of these groups like immigrants and whoever. And yeah, that invisible captures all of that, but also but one also captures that. So I'm pretty sure that song was written. Bono had a friend who was gay and came out to his father and was rejected, and that's the song is elusive enough that anybody can kind of fit their life narrative in there,
Right.
or moments in their life narrative when we've everybody's experienced rejection and pain of some sort. And I think it's a beautiful job of capturing how it is that rejection comes about. There's one person that has rejected another, but the reality is we're not the same, but we get to carry each other.
Yeah. It's a really powerful
And
line.
oh, totally, it's not an exhortation like we've got to carry each other. It's the essential truth about our humanity is that we sort of rise into the fullness of our humanity. We become even more human when we gather with those who are different from us and see it as our privilege to carry one another.
Yeah.
I mean, that the essential connection, while also recognizing there may be running difficulties in getting along. We may have irreconcilable differences, but our common humanity is absolutely undeniable. Or else we
Yeah.
deny our own humanity in denying somebody else's humanity.
It's always weird, and I know this is kind of like waxing poetic or something, and some people will roll their eyes, but when you look at the solar system or the universe and you think about our one little planet as just this one life raft that's floating around, and it has this collection of people on it that have to survive together in the vastness of space, and then you think about petty disagreements or even to the level of war, it just all seems asinine.
Oh,
And I
it's
love
insane,
that
yeah.
idea that we get to carry each other is such the idea that we get to do that. Like it's this privilege to walk alongside other people and to help each other up when we fall, and that kind of stuff it is a really profound idea. And you see it I don't know if I had heard that story about his friend and his father, but you really, I mean, did I disappoint you or leave a bad taste in your mouth? You act like you never had love and you want me to go without? Well, it's too late tonight to drag the past out into the light. We're one, but we're not the same. We get to carry each other. Oof, it's heavy.
That's
I got
powerful
goosebumps.
stuff, man. It is powerful stuff.
Have you come here for forgiveness? Have you come to raise the dead? Have you come here to play Jesus to the lepers in your head? Did I ask too much? More than a lot? Yeah, man, too much.
It's brutal. Yeah, when you think about it in those terms, if you just keep in mind that narrative, it's like, whoa, it's really incredible.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the end of that song, I think people, as we are wont to do, start to take everything literally as we do with scripture. And the end of the song says, you say love is a temple, love a higher law, love is a temple, love the higher law, love a higher law, love the higher law. You ask me to enter, but then you make me crawl. And I can't be holding on to what you got when all you've got is hurt. I think people ought, like when people get into Christianity conversation about U2 and they read a stanza like that, they're kind of like, what? That's not what God does to us, or it doesn't make me crawl into the kingdom. And it's like,
totally. That's us. We've done that. Like that's how we engage in relationships. It's like, I mean, that last verse could very well be directed at the church.
Yeah.
You know, we're the ones that will talk about these lofty ideals and realities and love and whatever, but we're also the ones telling others whom we want to come into our communities or whatever, here, you know, we're the ones making them crawl. Here are the expectations. Here are the ways you failed. We want to sort of lay down the law or create expectations and attach requirements and all that kind of thing, lay burdens, whereas genuine love liberates, you know, entirely. But
it's interesting if you look at the structure of churches on the, I don't know that if you're listening to it, I think we've talked about it, but the podcast about Mars Hill that Christianity Today is doing, the last episode was fascinating because it was all on demon hunting.
Oh yeah.
And spiritual warfare stuff. And it was, I had not heard half of that. I didn't know that was this secret society that a lot of those churches had going on. And I was just like, whoa, this is all really interesting. But one of the things that had nothing to do with the demonology stuff, well, I guess it was kind of related to it, was they're talking about the church pyramid structure. And at the bottom of the pyramid is children, and then it's women, and then it's men, and then it's elders, and then it's this lone pastor, and who has more divine access than everyone as that delineates out through the pyramid.
Yeah.
And how you can see how structures are built for people to be made to crawl in a structure that's built that way.
Yep.
And so it's like, how do we develop true community with people in the sense that it was intended to be built? So this is the thing that I'm always wrestling with now. We've talked about on Voxology about how we don't have a church here because when we moved here, we hadn't committed to a church yet, and then we went right into the pandemic. And so we decided we would take this time to decide what it is that we think church is or what it should be. And, you know, we went into this new creation series and all this kind of stuff that was talking about maybe perhaps what God's intent is, what was God's narrative, and whether or not church is in line with that, because we have this unique position to be able to pull a group of people together that is perhaps looking in that direction or posturing towards what. And when we look at those that's a hard word to say.
Oh yeah.
Hierarchical structure.
There you go. You gotta slow it down, man. That's what I have to do.
How do we build true community, like in the sense that God intended? And obviously you won't get it right, but how do you posture yourself so you're at least facing the right direction?
Yeah.
I don't even know what we're talking about now, but
the topic, everything. Yeah. So I think one of the things that's implicit in any kind of a structure of a church like that becomes toxic, or that does demand that some people crawl, is, at least, I mean, I'm sure there's loads of ways of looking at this, but just one thing that I had thought of is the denial of reality when it comes to the fact that we're all in pursuit of discipleship, and we're all I don't even, I want to say broken, or this is all kind of messed up, and this is all kind of being healed. I think that some communities portray themselves. I think churches get tempted to do this, and pastors fall into this temptation to portray a community as if it has everything together. And one of the dynamics that sort of makes people crawl, humiliates people that are sort of in process, is if a pastor gets distanced from just all the regular folks, a pastor can typically portray his or her own life as having it all together.
Right.
And one of the things that I love, when you brought up this topic, I was going back to all the songs that I just could think of that capture the truth as it's told in one. That there's this essential unity that we have, and when we embrace that, we sort of enter into our full humanity. But yet, there's going to be we're not the same, and we're going to have differences. And thinking chronologically, I'm just going all the way back to Joshua Tree, and this is streets,
Right.
because where the streets have no name, this is how I've understood this. The two roads that run through Belfast, the Shankill Road and Falls Road, they sit like they're one block away from each other, and there's a peace wall that is built in the back gardens between the two neighborhoods, and that is like the most divisive part of Belfast. It sort of stands
peace wall,
in
literally to keep the peace between two.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Protestants, Catholics, or whatever you call the two groups. But it's so Bono is looking ahead to this time when the streets have no name, when there are not these divisions. But then also, like, in that song, we're always building and burning down love, and it's like this is our constant pattern. We belong to each other. We're building together. We're always hurting each other. We're burning it down. I think also of the two love. This has always struck me. The two love songs in Wild Honey that is on All That You Can't Leave Behind.
I love the deep cuts that you bring in as like,
what's
like
that?
streets is a really, like, most people know where the streets have no name or one. Yeah. But like we spent so much time last episode on California, and then Wild Honey is like an even deeper cut.
That's hilarious.
I love it.
So
gotta add it to the playlist.
Oh yes, and put right next to it A Man and a Woman. Is that the name of the song from How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb?
Love it.
Yeah, A Man and a Woman. Because what strikes me about those two, and this is what I mean by saying one of the essential parts of enjoying healthy community together is speaking the truth about things.
Yeah.
Because in Wild Honey, there's this line. I mean, the imagery is so bonkers. Like they're monkeys swinging from a tree.
Yeah, it just seems like a goofy song.
Yeah, but there's this line where he says, I gotta be careful. I don't want to get choked up if I say it. Did I know you? Did I know you even then, before the clocks kept time, before the world was made? And it's like, in thinking about his wife, and you know how this is from human experience. It's like, I know my wife and I met when I guess I was 19. And it's like, that there's this period before you got together, and you have you have memories. I have memories of going to ball games in high school that she doesn't have, but that where she's not part of it. But it's like, when I think about our relationship from one perspective, it's like, was there a time when I didn't know you? Because the melding of souls is like that. Yeah. But right after that, the next album, because those two albums they have different tenors. All That You Can't Leave Behind is sort of like looking at everything from this, I don't want to say positive, but from the perspective of beauty, from grace. I mean, that's the song that closes that album, and from the reality that it's a beautiful day. even though everything's all messed up. Uh, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb starts with vertigo. So it basically starts at Genesis 3 and ends with this cry to God with Yahweh. And it's just a darker album. It's just more in, 9/11 had happened.
Yeah.
We've gone to war. And so the love song is a bit more pensive on that album. And it's about, the constant refrain is the mysterious distance between a man and a woman. And it's like, how can it be? And so what I'm trying to get at in all this is just to say, it is so astonishing about human relationships where on one hand you can look at your partner and just say, did I always know you before like there was ever anything? And on the other hand, it's like you also have those seasons and moments where you're like, who are you?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like, we don't even know each other.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to get at an essential part of community and these relationships is just knowing that there are seasons, there are realities, and it's both beautiful that we're together and also it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
No,
that's really interesting because you think about how complicated, if I think about how complicated I am, like in class yesterday, we were talking about this article called Hidden Intellectualism, and it was advocating that street smarts should be more of a part of the conversation in the classroom. It shouldn't just be book smarts. And so I was asking the students, like, well, how can someone define for me the difference between knowledge and intelligence? Like, I gave an example of when I was in college, I had a geography class, and our final, they gave us a blank map of the entire world, and we had to label every country in the world. And I nailed it. I got an A on it.
Wow.
But 45 minutes later, I couldn't remember half of it.
Oh, yeah.
Like I just crammed the information in my head so that I could regurgitate it quickly. And then I walked out of there and it just was gone. Did I learn anything from that? No. So being able to bring in experience into something so that you can sort through information, that's street smarts. I asked the students, said, hey, can someone define street smarts to me? And one of the guys said, it's knowing when to run. And I was like, dang, that's really an interesting way to articulate that. And we had a long conversation about what that looks like. And it was really fascinating because the nuance of what it means to be an individual human, because I can only really speak to the intricacies within myself. And then as we've talked about, the Enneagram helps with this a lot because, when we were dating, and it's similar, I met my wife, I think when I was 19 also. And, it was the 5 love languages was the big thing at that time period, right?
Yeah.
Learning how to, and I still think about it often because I will find that I will try to love my wife the way that I experience love.
Totally.
And she'll just be like, this doesn't mean anything to me. And so, we're 20 something years in and I still struggle with that, like trying to love her the way that I understand love. And so the Enneagram has been helpful for me to like, she's wired so different than I am. And I'm learning the intricacies of what that means and how to like respect that and to love that and to love her the way that she needs to be loved. Yeah. Now I try to take that to a community. I mean, just my own family, how to coexist with different humans that share my DNA. And then I break that out to my community around me. And it's like, this is a complicated process, but in learning to really respect those differences, because there are those moments like, have I ever not known you? And then this is like, I don't know who you are. Yeah, totally. And sitting in the balance of those two things is kind of amazing and can be a really, like we talked last episode about how Jesus really embodied the grotesque and the other by becoming human, learning to, and I want to do a series so bad. I've been begging Mike for a while to do a series on like, who is Jesus as a human? Because Jesus, I think to the majority of people is an esoteric idea. Like we have an idea of this like ideal human or whatever but who is the human deity that walked on the earth? Like, can we put some flesh and blood to that to really understand who that person may have been? And I'm so curious to crack that egg open, because I think there's so much more to learn than kind of the tropes that we continue to mine, if that makes sense. But even in light of this conversation about how to exist, I've told this story before, but I think it's really funny. There's a movie called Dogma by Kevin Smith that I can't recommend that anybody go and watch, because it's a super crass, heretical film. But if you can handle that kind of stuff, it can handle crass humor and bad language. The idea there is that these two angels fall, and they're wrestling through wiping out humanity. The angels are always presented as jealous in literature and in film, which I think is
interesting.
It is really interesting, because they're always like, this is God's beloved and we're not.
Yeah.
And so they always have this like chip on their shoulder about like, we were here first, but God likes you better. And it's this like sibling rivalry that often comes up in literature. But there's this one scene. So there's Chris Rock falls to earth, and he is the 13th apostle who was left out of the Bible because he's black.
Oh, dude, that's
and
hilarious.
Chris Rock has this whole like diatribe about it, and it's wonderful. And but he's sitting on he's what is he doing? He's traveling with Jay and Silent Bob, the two characters that are in all of those movies. And Chris Rock, they say, what was Jesus like? And Chris Rock says, man, he would, how does he say? He said he would, at night when we were traveling around, we would sit by the campfire, and he would just sit there and listen to our stories and smile. Like he just loved humanity and was so invested in like the humanness of what they were doing. And the days were filled with what we would read in the gospel. Obviously this is like I said, just a story from a crass movie in the 90s that has no biblical relevance whatsoever. But I've always liked the idea, the picture that Kevin Smith built there, that Jesus was just smiling and was delighted in some of the humanness of us.
Yeah.
And I think about that in community, like how can I delight? How do I really embody the mindset of I get to carry you and you get to carry me, and what does that mean in a real way, not in a rhetorical way, but like a real sense.
I haven't thought about that movie in so long, but it makes me think about the Eddie Murphy skit when he used to be on Saturday Night Live. This is way back in the 80s, where he his name, I can't remember his last name, but he was Clarence, the fifth Beatle, and he got he got cut out. He got cut out, and they had he said if you play this one song backwards on the record, he played the recording, and it was like, hey Paul, let's get rid of Clarence and steal all his good ideas. So great. I loved it.
Oh man.
But you know, I it makes me think about even all of the songs that U2 has done that celebrate the reality of them and the audience. And this is how I have understood the City of Blinding Lights. City of Blinding Lights is about the concert. It's like, you know, you look so beautiful tonight. I mean, this is what it's all about. The concerts are, especially over the last 20 years, are not about necessarily the performances that the band puts on. They're about the band inviting the audience in to sing along with. Also, there's been a growing emphasis on the band playing other people's songs in, like, you know, before a concert starts, they play everybody else's music.
Right. And
during the concert, they will often play, like they do, like a lot of Everly Brothers stuff and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just wonder if there's like a reorientation of our imaginations when we think about being Christian, where we have to, oh, by the way, that's what that line, the songs in my head, songs in your head are now in my mind. That's from, doggone it. Was it No Line on the Horizon? That's also about the process of the band and the band's relationship with their fans. I mean, it's like There's no line on the horizon. There's no difference between the band and them. There's no difference between music of the past and music of the present. It's like it is all this one thing. And yeah, there's that song is so interesting. He's a traffic cop on the Rue du Marais. Siren screaming, but it's me that wants to get away. Like he just sees himself as this director of traffic, where it's like he stands at the intersection of rock and roll itself and music, and everyone and like everyone who shows up to their shows, and it's like, don't be a fan of this person. We together are inhabiting the music. The music holds us. And I just wonder if we had a different conception of being Christian in terms of like, it's not that I am a Christian. I try to get that language out of my mind. You know, I just try to identify for myself as much individualistic language as I can.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't think of myself as a Christian, and I should go to church, or I go there with those people. It's like when we gather, that's the whole event. That's what it's all about. Our being able to be with each other, our being able to be embraced and to embrace, to listen, to speak, to share how we're doing, to hold one another's stories and triumphs and tragedies, and to have ours held by others. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's the point. And so, I mean, the church's gathering in the first century was around a meal. It was the Lord's meal, where there could be extended lingering for everyone to be together. And it's not like, I bristle when I hear this on the part of folks who talk about the purpose of church. You know, we kind of gather to be equipped and then scatter to do stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like when in the first century, there was no scattering. Everybody lived on top of each other. Right. But in our, at least in America, we do scatter. It's like we exist in this sort of unnatural state where we are a body part disconnected from the rest of our body. The most natural place for a Christian to be is around the assembled meal, listening or being listened to, eating, enjoying. Mm-hmm. So I do get it when people talk about like U2's body of work being basically like a hymnal or whatever. I don't know about that. But it's like they're talking about the same thing when it's all about the gathering and bodies being together, and just, it's about elevation. It's about just being in one place, inhabiting music, having music inhabit us. It's just the richest thing in the world, just like community is when we gather as church. So if that's the reality, then how do we think about difference? How do we think about the ways that our culture drives us to be in conflict with one another? I mean, we have to reckon with that and have to sort of hold all of that very loosely and learn the practices of forgiveness, learn the practices of reconciliation, of grief together. Yeah. Celebration, which is interesting. Together.
Like it, I guess one of in the conversation of kind of, I don't want to say redefining, but in my personal pursuit of trying to understand what the purpose of church is, that we kind of mentioned earlier. Another thing too is like I've been a worship leader for years, and I can't do it right now.
Why is that? What do you mean?
I just can't. The songs, well, I guess in one form, I'm not sure I understand the function that worship serves. Mm-hmm. In Mike's words, like in the pep rally for Jesus that Sunday mornings have become, I don't know. I've lost the thread of what role worship actually plays for us, not just in the church, just in general. Like, why do we worship, and what function does it serve other than just? And then again, the lyrical content of most of the songs, and I'm like, I can't sing these anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't think these are necessarily accurate or purposeful. And so one of the things I want to do with the Wanderer podcast next maybe is I've been trying to dissect hymns some purposeful hymns that I think are interesting because, so when you said that their discography is maybe not a hymnal, and in some ways, like maybe it's a more precise hymnal than a lot of the songs that we currently sing, because they are wrestling with humanity and humanity's relationship to one another and humanity's relationship to a deity. And when I look at the most poignant hymns from the last few hundred years, a lot of them are dealing with, looking at that exact relationship, looking at a societal conflict or a societal understanding of something and our role in it, and then looking to God for purpose or meaning or whatever, like trying to sort through that mess. And I think that's really interesting because it has a lot of extra human reality or context to it that when I watch a lot of the modern worship songs, half the time I don't know what they're talking about.
I think that's partly the point.
Yeah, right, exactly. So that's why I'm struggling so much with being, I recently had to turn down a worship thing because I'm just like, I think they thought I was like a crisis of faith, where I was like, I don't think I can do this right now. But I was just like, I don't think I can do this right now. And I don't think I can inhabit that space and whatever whatever it means to lead people in that. I'm not in a place where I understand what that means or even think it's a real, I don't know. So I'm sorting through all that kind of stuff. But when I think about the hymns, certain hymns, they worship as justice or whatever that we've talked about before. I think there's an interesting interplay in a lot of the hymns where that is the case. And even in the Psalms, you'll see a lot of that as well, where it's, and maybe we can segue into that for a second. We were talking before we recorded about September 11th and the Super Bowl.
Oh, dude.
So that kind of does inhabit some of this conversation a little bit. So, obviously today is the 15th of September. When you guys hear this, if you listen to it when it comes out, which I don't know that anyone does that, but we'll be a couple weeks removed. So this last Saturday was September 11th, and it was the 20th. It had been 20 years since that happened. And I was trying to think about, like, everyone has a relationship to that in one form or function. Either maybe you knew someone personally who was there, all the way to the other side of the spectrum where, like, my children who are 9 and 5, they only have a historical relationship to it. Yeah. And seeing the way that we talk about it every year on that occasion. Yeah. And, but I can only speak to my experience. And I had just quit my youth pastor job. My wife and I broke up. We weren't married at that point. And I just impulsively went and registered at a small Christian college in Northern California. I don't know why. And then when I got there, it was the 2000 election, and I realized that I didn't know why I believed anything that I believed. I had just been handed a faith and a politic that I didn't understand the root system of. So I just went nuts on that campus. I debated every single person on politics that I knew nothing about, to try to find out why any of us believed what we believed. And I found that my root system on a lot of topics was very shallow, and as was a lot of other folks. Sure. And I had to sort through and see, well, what do I think is true? What is actually true? So it ended up being fantastic in that way for me, that I had to sort through a lot of stuff. September 11th came, more than a year and a half into that process. I remember being woken up that morning by roommates. Turn the TV on. You got to see this.
Oh yeah, it would have been 6 a.m. for you.
Yeah, classes were canceled, and students were just kind of wandering around trying to sort through a myriad of emotions, rage, grief, sorrow, but a lot of it was confusion because no one can process the immensity of what.
Oh, it was bananas.
What was happening. And so in 2002, the first Super Bowl that followed September 11th, U2 played the halftime. And so I think we can sort through some of this stuff, and it's kind of interesting. They opened the set with Beautiful Day, which was still kind of their big single at that time. And
that's right.
It's anthemic. Yeah. And everyone's on their feet, and it's what you expect from a Super Bowl halftime, like just energy and positivity. And then right after Beautiful Day, they start singing MLK, which is a song they rarely ever play live. It's almost fully a cappella.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would quantify that song. It's not, it's like it's almost like a prayer saying, you sleep tonight, and may your dreams
It's
be
like a
realized.
lullaby. It's like either like a blessing or a lullaby or something like that. It's only got like a verse and a half or two half verses. It's just really simple.
And you can see
From
Bono,
Unforgettable Fire.
Yeah, you can see Bono pleading for MLK to finally have rest, and for us to see that dream of this togetherness, or this end to violence, and this kind of stuff happen. Very powerful, but not what you expect in a halftime show. And it's a snippet. He sings the song with the edge, and then the opening.
I think it's so powerful because it's a subversion of what you expect.
Yes,
it's so American to respond to what happened with defiance, or with triumphalism, or like we're not gonna let them win, or something like that. And Beautiful Day is that whole thing where things are messed up, but you have to take another look at things. And then MLK was like, I always think about that episode with U2 as like Bono pastoring America. It's like he actually led the country into a moment of grief, into like a pensive posture, mournful, soulful. I mean, it was so bold and brave, but courageous and loving, and
people
tender.
have weird reactions to that, right? So you either, like, I remember thinking this is the only Super Bowl and since also that I cried during the halftime.
Oh, I was a mess.
And so like there is a catharsis in there where, and I don't mean this in a way of like trying to deify Bono by any sense, but I think that he was, like you're saying, very intentional with the way that he created a space for people to just kind of like cry out, like kind of let go. And so as the chords to the opening organ to Where the Streets Have No Name starts to come in, Bono he whispers into the microphone. I should have pulled it up, but I didn't know we were going to do this. It's Psalm 51 and verse 15. So he says, "Open my lips, Lord, and my mouth will declare your praise." Again, a weird thing to do at a Super Bowl halftime. And it's leading into Where the Streets Have No Name song that we just kind of discussed a little bit. And so the implications are bananas at this point. What is Psalm 51? The subheading on Psalm 51 is for the director of music, a Psalm of David, when the prophet Nathan came to him after David had committed adultery with Bathsheba. I was like, okay. So we have a psalm that's dealing with repentance and confession in the middle of talking about, and there's a lot of violent language in that psalm. If you read the whole psalm, there's a lot of talk of bloodshed and bones being crushed and wombs and just some intense language.
Typical. Typical psalm.
David would be an interesting study too, because I think he's such a fascinating character in his relationship to who he was with God and who he was to humanity. Is an interesting dichotomy. But in regards to what you were just saying before all this, and I've talked for a while, so people may not be able to reconnect that, but this idea of being with people through, in this case, a tremendous act of violence and hatred that we did not have the capability to process individually or collectively. There's something that's interesting about that series of songs and that verse in there, "Open my lips, Lord, and my mouth will declare your praise." What were you thinking when you processed through that? Like, where
what
were
was
you
so
at?
striking to me is, we were living in Britain at the time, so it's always been weird for my wife and me because we lived in Scotland, and so we're not really a part of the national experience. But I'll never forget that Super Bowl. Watching it, I mean, you've hit everything that happened in the lead up to Streets, but I think it started right during MLK. There were those two sort of shafts of light
Oh, that's right.
behind the stage, and it's like just kind of connecting back to this everything we're talking about. It's like,
Well, they dropped those banners around everybody's names
well,
on them too.
there were the two banners, and in two shafts of light, so kind of representing the World Trade Center. They're all the names
Yeah.
of people who had died, and again, it's like where you two went was our common humanity. Like, let's remember, let's say the names. And in fact, that is consonant with what's the song from that album where
Oh,
where he ponders,
says all the names.
he says the names.
Yeah.
These lives are bigger than any big idea. What is the name of that song? Shoot, it's escaping me. It's like Gareth, Ann, and Brita.
Totally.
Their lives are bigger than any big idea. So it's like he
Peace on Earth. Is that was that it?
Peace on Earth. It's such a beautiful tune that again goes back to reconnecting with our common humanity. And with Streets, I mean, that is just, it's got to be the most powerful performance of Streets that they've done because of the moment. And what I loved most about that, get choked up. What I loved most about that moment was at the very end, where Bono's got that jacket on, and it's got it's all the stitching, his football laces. It was so funny, and he pulls the jacket to the side. And it's got an American flag,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like, and he just shouts, "America!"
Right.
I mean, no, actually,
Yes.
wasn't it at the beginning of the
That
song?
precedes it, so it's after the song.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like it kind of builds, and then he does that,
Yeah.
and it's like, I mean, just look at the imagery. He's wrapped in America. He's there in the midst of America. It's all this kind of joining together of common humanity. There's that's what strikes me, is that it was a performance that was intended to kind of pull everyone back to who we are, to what matters. And of course, you know, the story of the last 20 years has been a horrible one in many ways, because it's been just, you know, it's just how to dismantle an atomic bomb. Is it Boots on the Ground? Love and Peace or Else.
Oh, I love that song.
I mean, that's the story of these last 20 years.
That's an interesting song actually to put in tandem with Peace on Earth.
Yeah.
The Peace on Earth song is really interesting. I'm going to read a few of the lyrics.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that Bono, I remember, so I was just reading a bunch of articles I was reading a bunch of theologians and pastors calling him a heretic and a progressive Christian and how he's ruining the gospel, et cetera, et cetera. I read a bunch of that last night. And one of the things that Bono said once is, I mean, he would always defend, like, I'm not trying to be a poster boy for what it means to be a Christian, and I will never claim that. He's usually saying that he's trying to inhabit what he thinks that the gospel is asking for. And he has this line that says something to the effect of, like, the scripture that hits me the most is in the Lord's Prayer, when it says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. He said, that's what I want. We could all use a little bit of that right now, some heaven on earth. That's what I want. And so with things like Jubilee, or anything that he's done with AIDS or the poor or wealth redistribution, gosh, has all been really interesting in that respect. So that song, Peace on Earth, Heaven on Earth, we need it now. I'm sick of all of this hanging around, sick of sorrow. This is pre September 11th. Yeah. I'm sick of the pain. I'm sick of hearing again and again that there's going to be peace on earth. Where I grew up, there weren't many trees. Where there was, we'd tear them down and use them on our enemies. They say that what you mock will surely overtake you. And I think this isn't especially pertinent. And you become a monster, so the monster will not break you. So you become what you hate the most to defend yourself from what you hate the most. And it's already gone too far. You said that If you're going hard, you won't get hurt. Jesus, can you take the time to throw a drowning man a line? Heavy duty.
Yeah, it is, especially if you think about how it wasn't on our radar, but 2001 when they're writing that, that's in the wake of, I think it was 1998, the Armagh bombing, so which was huge in Northern Ireland, which I think was a big wake up call to everybody that things had gotten way too out of control. So like the 21 people maybe that died in that bombing, 18 or 21 or something like that. Those are some of the names that he mentions in that song.
Yeah.
So for him and his backdrop, it's like that had just happened, and it marked Northern Ireland. It really, helped the peace process in some ways, but it just was pure tragedy.
The lyrics going forward in that song too, "And Peace on Earth." The whole thing speaks to all of this. Tell the ones who hear no sound, whose sons are living in the ground, peace on earth. No who's or whys, no one cries like a mother cries for peace on earth. And we've touched on the mothering stuff with some previous songs too. And Grace as a woman. And she never got to say goodbye to the color in his eyes. Now he's in the dirt, peace on earth. They're reading names out over the radio. This is what you were just mentioning. All the folks the rest of us won't get to know. Sean and Julia, Gareth, Ann and Brita. Their lives are bigger than any big idea. That's a profound statement.
Huge.
Also,
that is picked up in Songs of Innocence. What is the song? Is it there's a bunch of songs about the Troubles on
Cedarwood Road definitely deals with bombing.
There's the one where I think it's Cedarwood Road.
Or no, maybe it was Raised by Wolves.
It's Raised by Wolves, sorry. When he sings, I don't believe anymore. I don't believe anymore. And because there's a line in there where he says the worst things in the world are justified by belief. And that's that thing, that the big idea that we want this island. We want a united Ireland. We want the Brits gone, and it's worth killing people to get that. Or whatever the big idea is. It's like humanity and humans are always more valuable than any ideology.
Yeah.
Always. And that's, I've thought that for a while. I had a really significant couple of conversations with my daughter about all this a couple of years ago, where it's like, if there's any ideology, any ideology that causes you to do damage to people, there's something wrong. There's just something wrong. And I think about this when it comes to how so many Christians regard LGBTQ plus folks. It's like if we're in the kind of situation where we're treating people badly, there's something wrong somewhere. We're not doing this the right way. We have to rethink practice or whatever. Something's gone wrong. And so I think the same thing with regard to nationalism or even our political divisions now. If we're whatever side we're on or whatever we think, if we're speaking badly about one another and doing damage, we're on the wrong side. We're inhabiting the wrong kind of postures. There's no big idea that's worth it. Yeah, and so when it comes to that, it's like, I don't believe anymore. There's no ideology that's going to make me do that.
That's such an important word. Their lives are bigger than any big idea. Yeah, I feel I've always kind of felt like if I'm unsure on something, I'll try to err on the side of love. And I don't mean that in like a really hyperbolic sense, but really just looking at things that way is what we're doing. Yeah. And we are a land of ideologies.
Totally.
In every way that you just mentioned, and especially the church has become that place where right now everyone's trying to draw a line in the sand on so many topics to say this is what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And they're all very, even on both sides of the fence, they're both can be very exclusive in the way that they speak towards one another. And then you just come back to that. Do we hold a posture where we get to carry each other, where we get to do this? That's a privilege to carry one another and to respect those differences and love each other in the tapestry of what humanity is a really such a profound,
It's huge.
and simple.
It's the task
Yeah.
to remain in that posture of hospitality when other people seem out of control, angry, and they're going to hurt us.
Yeah. It's hard.
Or when people seem like they're going to do damage, when we disagree profoundly, it's easy to give into that impulse to cut them off, or to not be hospitable, or to not take up hospitality, or take up an invitation to have fellowship. But it's like the biggest thing in the world is that we have each other, and we've got to hold each other, because that's how we have our humanity enriched. Whatever they think about a vaccine, or whatever they think about a mask, or whatever they think about the president, it's like these people are the richest possible gifts I could receive, and they're good for me. This will be good for me. It's tough, but that's the pursuit.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
What is what's the final refrain from the final, if this is the finale? The end, is it the end of the first song or the end of the last song in Songs of Experience? How does it go in the end? Oh, love is all you have left.
Oh, that's such a beautiful song.
It's like, love is all we have left. And it's like, that's all we have. It's all we have, and it's all we need. I love how in Streets, there was a season there where Bono was singing love, 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 all you need is love. I just loved that, It's so cool.
From the Fifth Beatle, from Eddie Murphy.
Clarence.
Well, I think that was great. It was a good hour on community and coexistence and
Totally, man.
how to carry one another and why.
We hit a ton.
What's interesting is that almost, I'd say 95% of the songs that we talked about were from Octung Baby forward.
Yeah.
But U2 purists will always try to claim the opposite direction.
See, this is the thing. I think that like we were texting last night with Kevin, it's like if you just listen to those first few albums, it's like their songwriting is so it's so raw that it's just too undeveloped. Mm-hmm. At the same time that I say that, it's like they were kind of talking about that, sort of waving the white flag of surrender as the only weapon. I mean, that's the lyric from Soldier, Soldier, well, this is where you can find me now, from Songs of Innocence. Mm-hmm. Complete surrender, the only weapon we know. But Bono was talking about that like in 82, 83. So the stuff is there. It's just so undeveloped in the middle of all his just screaming and know what they're saying.
The first episode of this, we kind of talked about our journeys with the band, and kind of how, in some ways, that journey that they take is mirrored by people in our generations or whatever. And it's, when I think about albums like Boy in October, the first two records, and that they were teenagers roughly.
Totally.
And so, I think about, I was joking with my students yesterday when we were talking about, I was trying to explain that time period where I was coming into my own and developing my own thoughts. And it's like, and I thought I came to understand all those truths in my early 20s that now I look back and I'm like, God, what an idiot.
Oh, totally.
But man, I thought I had it correct. So it's interesting because Bono has had a similar trajectory where he got, he did a lot of work on poverty when Clinton was the president, and a lot of work on AIDS, obviously. And then when Bush came into office, I think everybody assumed that he would not have anything to do with George Bush Jr. And but instead, he was very involved with Bush. And people are like, what are you doing? This guy does not uphold the same principles. And he was like, I will work with anybody who is willing to work for good or to do these. And it was like, that was a shift in how to approach that conversation. Rather than being against everything, it was like, how can I be for things in the most constructive way possible?
Yeah,
and when I watch my journey as a human, Sure. I was angry like boy. I was thinking I had it all kind of figured out like October and War. And that kind of leads into something like Joshua Tree, where there's an earnestness to your understanding of everything. And then it's the sound of cutting down a Joshua tree comes in right after that. And then now we're in these eras where Bono's processing is so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
And in some ways so much smaller
Deeper.
than that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
this
it's
is
a
like
really
the simplicity.
fascinating journey.
It's like the simplicity on the far side of complexity.
Yes. And I think that's really kind of beautiful. And it's, for me, has really mirrored that trajectory.
Yeah.
Being young and angry, being, still kind of young, but thinking I figured it all out. Listen to me talk about it.
Yeah.
And now being like, I will pursue the common good with in any way that I can.
Yeah.
And try to embody the idea that we get to carry each other. Like that it's a profound emphasis on the get. And it's something that I'm trying to hold as tight as I can.
Yeah. Old man says that we never listen. We talk about what we don't know. Old man says we don't listen. How could we have something to say? From This Is Where You Can Find Me Now. I just feel like as we grow, things get richer. Your understanding deepens. Your understanding goes to sort of new levels. But yet, what I think is interesting is that even with Achtung Baby, in fact, that may have been the start, where even though things got so complex and layered in so many of the songs, until the end of the world. I'm trying to think of a couple other.
I don't think we ever even talk about
I can't believe that
the more overt biblical songs on
totally
the records, and we didn't even get to that.
At that point, there's all these complex narratives that they're talking about, and constantly there's the intrusion of love. That's where I think it starts on that album, where it's like love just comes in and just it scrambles the equation. It changes the equation. It's this invasion that reconfigures things, which is so cool. So cool. And then it just makes, if you think about the final word from Songs of Experience, it's like in the end, like love is all you have left. Mm-hmm. And that's a statement of hope. It's not a statement of like surrender or like, oh great. It's like love is all you have left. And that's the point.
Yeah.
Which is so cool, I think.
Love it. Well, hopefully maybe people, if you weren't a U2 fan and you made it through 3 episodes, maybe you'll sit down and give the discography a run.
Yeah, give it a run.
I think it's worth it could be worth the time invested. Good road trip, as Mr. Gombis has often said. These are records that are good to be listened to in the car on a long drive straight through, when you can try your hardest to match Bono's vocal range, especially in those late 80s, early 90s.
It's hopeless.
There are songs that will just destroy your throat, but in the best possible way. But I don't know. I hope overall this is encouraging. It was encouraging for me. Mike and I were joking we're on so far at this point, a 9-part series on the Bible right now, and it just keeps getting longer and longer as we kind of tear into what it means to what the Bible is or whatever. And we joked around like, well, if it's a barometer, like I'm learning a lot and I'm super interested, and he says he's learning a lot and he's interested. So if that's a barometer for success, then it's super successful.
Totally, man. This has been so fun. I've loved it. It's been great.
All right. As they say, that is that. This concludes our mini series on U2 and theology. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to the music. Thanks for indulging our archaeological expedition into the lyrical and narrative content of U2. We had fun, as I'm sure you can tell. Hopefully you did too. Hopefully you got turned on to some U2 music that maybe perhaps you would not have normally. As I said on the first episode, if Voxology is the record, The Wanderer is the B-sides. This podcast will be here some weeks, and others it will not. It's a wanderer, and it will do exactly that. I've got a couple other series ideas and different things that I'd like to touch on in the future. Hopefully we'll have time to get weird. Try to turn over some of the stones that don't normally get turned over. Maybe, I don't know. So stay tuned, watch your feed. When they land, they land. Thank you for wandering with us. And I'll leave you again with the patron saint, Black Francis. If man is 5, and the devil is 6, and God is 7. Thanks, folks.